Thank you so much. I am absolutely excited to be here today. So let's check out if I'm actually capable of, using some simpler technology here. So welcome Berlin. Fantastic two speakers. It's really, I was feeling like in my brain, I was going like plus one, plus one, plus one. We need more skill, people, we need more people who understand AI. We need to talk about things controversially because that's the only way how we humans learn from each other, and that's how we can make whatever technology has at our hands better for the future. And I'm pretty sure you want to have some future predictions. I am about to disappoint you terribly because I'm actually going back. So for those of you who have a Copilot at your hand, you can try this exercise with me. I'm going back to the year 1841, so 1841. And if you want to do this mentally, you can think for yourself of any historic event of any significance to that particular year. So I did run that a couple of times. That's not the first time I'm presenting that. And if you ask Copilot or you go on the web search, whatever choice, you will come up with some things. Anybody from US here, I think it was a 10th inauguration for the president's John Tyler. I have to look up that. I never remember. And there was an Amistad case actually tried in US court, freeing people who were kidnapped on the board of Amistad. There was an Antarctic expedition, figuring out some new geographic capabilities there. But this is not what I think been actually most important. That goes back to Katrina's point, that my personal judgment, neither of these web responses or Copilot responses is actually touching my nerve. What does touch my nerve is this invention here. And you might guess what that is. And because we have limited time, I don't give you too much time for the guessing. This is actually a paint tube. It's a sink paint tube that you can screw in. Now, here is why I believe this was one of very important inventions in the human history. Before that paint tube has been invented, and you were a painter in 1841 or before that, you would pick a pig bladder and you will put your paint in there if you wanted to travel. And if you couldn't do that, because pig bladders, trust me on this one, I haven't tried, but I believe that, are very terrible in transporting paint. And once you open it, you couldn't close it. So it was a very strong limitation to the creativity of any painters. So what these guys ended up is they were painting in studios. So they will go out, they will capture whatever they could on a sketch. They will memorize what they've seen in terms of the lights or situations or impressions on faces. And then it will come back and then it will paint. So the invention and the squeeze of that tube, imagine what that's done. It actually unleashed an evolution of creativity, now it will be great, of what we call today an impressionism. There will be no Renoir, there will be no Cézanne, there will be no Gauguin, any of these great paintings, if there would be not this little simple paint tube. Why are we talking about this today? Because I do believe that oftentimes, and Tina and Katerina touched on that multiple times in the talk track, we actually refer to AI such as this would solve all the human problems all at once, and it wouldn't. But it does unleash a human creativity to the immense, really, that it was done here, because all of the sudden, painting a picture of a mother or people in a park at a picnic was so much more real. And believe it or not, we will see many, many of those innovations coming up. Why I'm saying this? So this was a patent find by John G. Rand in 1481. It was one patent that unleashed this revolution in painting. Let me take you forward. There are 22,000 patents by Microsoft only, and many more. And Tina had some stats on that as well, and I'm pretty sure we can find many more online. There are millions of patents, actually 22,000 already on Microsoft, 10,000 in Germany, if I remember the numbers correctly from the previous speaker, 8 global research centers here, 19 in Germany, thousands and thousands of people creating what we imagine a paint tube today. on AI space. Why it is important? Because it's not the AI that solves the problem, it's us human holding this paint tube. And I want us to remember what it does. It enables the evolution, not of a human race or artificial intelligence in its whole. It gives us the means to creativity, to get there faster, to be more real, and to be outside of the studio versus in studio. So I started my career as a computer scientist, so I can very much connect to what Katrina was saying before that. And I remember my first professor telling me, Irina, machine only does what you tell it to do. Well, you know, fast forward 30 years later, it's still true. The only difference today is that machine is much more powerful, so I can interact with the native language. I have a GitHub Copilot at my fingertips, so I can be faster in creating whatever imagination I think. But all of the principles and rules apply. It's still our imagination, it is still our creativity. But what it does, and I think that's the fundamental difference between the technological innovation we've seen before and technological innovation we've seen since a couple of like months now, really. The pace of adoption has changed fundamentally. It took us whatever number of years for the mobile phone, it was 16 years to get from 1 user to 100 million. It took us an internet 7 years. So for those folks who was in computer science, as I assume most of you were, we were pretty quick there because we've seen the potential. But you know, like my mother didn't have an internet for many years. Now she does. It took us 2 months at the moment when ChatGPT came out for adoption. What it does, it democratizing a lot of that technology. So everybody has, you know, not everybody was a painter back then in 1841. Everybody can take a picture of a phone or can go and create content online because of the iPhone momentum. Today, with generative AI and many tools that come after that, which we're going to talk about in a second, that's what we're kind of getting. We are getting to the many people who can have access to technology. And that's why we have the responsibility also to provide the literacy to that technology, as Katerina rightfully said. Now, Microsoft stance on where we are at is we truly believe, and I'm here for that very same reason, not just here today, but with that company for many years, is we want that every individual, every team, every industry does go and does discover the power of that creativity, the power of what lies behind underneath, provided by research and people who get that into action. We don't need everybody to be skilled scientists to reason with the model. But we need to provide the people basic literacy, not in computer science, but frankly, in critical thinking, in smart questioning. There was a Harvard Business Review article very recently, and if you're interested, catch me on a cafe break, I will figure it out for you, that said that accumulation of knowledge and synthesizing the knowledge, still super important for humans, but the real true advantage comes when you start asking critical questions. So if you ask me, and I'm a mother of 2, what is the most important skill I want my kids to be able to have is the critical thinking and smart questioning and being able to reason both with other humans, equally with a computer-generated, whatever that is. Now, when we take this forward, we actually really need to get that down to action. Now, how do you get that down to action? Because this AI transformation doesn't happen all by itself. It happens because all of you here, all of the people in the other stage, all of the people out there, everybody in Germany or wherever else in the world, starts to think of practical applications, enriching employee experience, like giving me, I consider myself a knowledge worker. Now, yesterday, Gary asked me this. He said, like, Irina, are you still a knowledge worker? I'm like, yes, absolutely. Because my power is this brain. And ChatGPT has access to way more much information that I do, but I have 2 degrees in critical thinking that ChatGPT doesn't. So what I can do is I can imagine in my daily work, and I work with a Copilot every day, figuring out how I can make my work life easier with the assistant that is available to me today at the fingertips. So I'm already using a lot of this assistance, thankfully. Now, the customer engagement is now different things. Now, whether I am able or not able to set a dynamic pricing, but what I'm expecting from this future transformation that whenever I interact with an e-store or a customer service, or I'm calling my telephone provider, that the people on the other line do not jump me 3 times of hoops through the same questions, because it just gets frustrated, right? So that's a capability of generative technology that is there and can be adopted. Reshaping business, and more interestingly, moving these frontiers of innovation, because we don't hold ourselves back by dragging our feet by executing basic rudimentary tasks. Now, this is what we're trying to do together, all of you and us as a Microsoft. And by the way, I hear all of this like big US. There are millions of people working for Microsoft all over the globe. Just because the company headquarters in Redmond, I consider myself my Microsoft Germany. We just invented 2.3 billion into this particular industry, scaling 1.2, I don't like remember 12 million people here in Germany in order to be able to be moving this particular society forward. The reason why I'm so proud of what we're trying to do is the why. And let me take you, I hope that works now. Let me take you with this. Does it? It doesn't. No, it doesn't. Okay, so I'm gonna share with you the video. So the video is actually talking about providing an opportunity for the people to trust themselves for what their dreams are with a co-pilot it is. Now, here is what I think is super important we talk, and that goes back to the point, what is AI? And how do we get ready there? Because that's what I promised you to tell and to talk about. So please go ahead and ask these questions. AI is not just one model. It's a fundamental stack of pieces of information and the pillars that we should go and talk together. Whether you're a startup, whether you're a developer, whether you work for the government, whether you're an industry representative, these are the things that we need to talk and exercise caution, smartness, and execution at any of these levels. Now, infrastructure for AI is a pretty straightforward topic. Infrastructure is a GPU, InfiniBand, whether it's AMD or NVIDIA. Giving a fun fact, the first ChatGPT model that came out in 2022, the capacity that you needed in order to train that was 285,000 AMD InfiniBand computers, and that was like 10,000 NVIDIA V100, I believe, to train that one model, which is, we all agree, is super fancy and very, very fun, but not smart enough to do multiplications, as we just learned. But there are more things that needed in order for AI to be meaningful to us and to really unleash the potential that we all have in us, humans, hopefully the positive one, not the negative one. And that's a data platform. And I have an example for you just in a second about the data platform. Now, we talk to a lot of organizations. I am surprised by how few actually manage to cross over the silos to make sure that the people who need the application talk to the people who have the data and vice versa. I also had this one interesting conversation where people said, like, yeah, if I connect everything in one lake and then I unleash the ChatGPT on this, then I unbias my data. I'm like, that's an interesting conversation. I don't think so, because I am of the opinion, and we can have the research conversation about that, how much bias is already in that data. Right? So we have to be smart of first actually enabling ChatGPT to access that, tell you why in a second. And then beyond that, this is all not for self-reasoning, right? This is all because the real application starts when you have an application that helps a particular business problem in a particular business to be solved. Whether you're in a medical care and you need to have a roster and schedule or for patients, or you have, I don't know, a Deutsche Bahn, somebody here, to optimize your train schedule or your cruise for the flights, or whatever it is. There are a multitude of these problems, but they all go with applications. So we need to have somehow AI platforms and toolkits, both for developing those applications, enriching existing applications and making people who actually need more of these applications not be limited on limited development resources that we have today. Now, can AI write source code? GitHub can. Do I need a smart human in front of that GitHub? Oh, absolutely. And that's why we as Microsoft will, that's like, I don't think that ever going to change. It is a co-pilot. We don't hand over this to be a pilot, and we don't plan to. And that's for the very good reasons that Katerina done such a brilliant job explaining to you guys why. Now, all of that is fantastic opportunities, but it's worth nothing. And if you're not afraid, you should be. It has to be secure. And government can, and hopefully will, continue issuing policy and giving a frame and a guardrails. But let's not be fooled. There are equally large amount of negative energy in the human population as much as a great light energy and creativity. So there are dark actors everywhere in the world using the same tools that we create good things to create bad things. So we have a fundamental increase in security threats, which I have a couple of data points when we get to that. So this has to be part. If you want your organization to be ready for AI in whatever light, medium, or very heavy version of that, that has to be part of the conversation. It has to be part of the framework. It has to be part of something that you actively procure and embed in any conversation that you have, because if you haven't, then you're already vulnerable to everywhere out there with the same ChatGPT LLM model. It may be dumb enough to do multiplications, but trust me, it is smart enough to create a scam campaign. AI-enabled applications, and then finally, we will always circle back to that skilling of humans. And I think that's a task that we have to accomplish together. Neither party alone can do that. Our education, our K-12, our universities can't do this alone, because many, many people do not study computer science for a living. They study something else. And they are part of that technological ecosystem that we are talking about today. So how do we get from there? There are a couple of numbers for the data scientists here. That's the research we done internally. It's already public on the web. I'm happy to share whoever is interested in the back data. We see a huge improvement in productivity, right? For those of you, like my friend Karin, is Karin here around? She probably needs a business case over here. We also did some hardcore numbers where we see this productivity coming in. So for every dollar that people do invest in AI technology, and by AI technology, I mean all of the stacks and not just the first layer of it, they are realizing 3.5 in 14 months. Now, there are many people and many companies in the tough financial situations. So it's a very, very deliberate choice to say, where do I invest this money? Because this break even of 14 months, not everyone is at liberty to have. So here is your choice. Do you go and partner with a platform that have the stuff that you don't need 285,000 GPUs to train your own LLM, but you invest your money into AI tooling, you invest your money into security, you invest your money in good practice applications, or do you invest your money in writing researchers paper? Because that's what I think other people doing already for us. So go use this. I absolutely loved Tina's point and say, let's make it actionable. Let's not reinvent the wheel, because part of that wheel is already there and it's already rolling. Now, let me decompose, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of scientists here, so I'm not going to do depth on this one, but I'm just going to give you like, because I hear a lot of this, it's like, this is the AI. I'm talking about two things in this AI just right now for the sake of an argument. I'm talking about the natural language interface that the most of us see, just like my kids, and this reasoning engine that is actually powering up what we see. So here is a short example of potential application. So we go here and we say, hey, can you, I'm asking ChatGPT in that case, based on Microsoft Azure, what would happen if the strings were cut? Now, for those of you who've done AI for some years, you know how much actually energy got into that question and being able to answer that. That is not trivial AI modeling here. So the answer would be here, if you cut the balloons, the balloons would fly away in the air. Now, we have here an example of conversation with ChatGPT. Now, here's the interesting thing. That's fun enough. It's not good enough to already hand it over to the physicist who's trying to optimize molecular chemistry. Guess that's too vague of an answer. But it is incredible how far we've got just in the past 12 months of using those models, because that wasn't possible when 3.5 get out. Okay? So here's a conversation. Now, this is interesting. The co-pilot, if the strings were cut, the balloon would fly up away due to the buoyant force in the air. A person holding the strings would lose their grip, and the boxes in the background, so you think of that, it took me two attempts to see the boxes in the background in that picture, would remain unaffected. So it was decomposing basic physics and modeling into the picture that was, by the way, painted by DALL-E. So you can go ahead and say, what if the strings was cut? What masses are connected to our strings? Dangerous of AI broken guitar string. Now you go ask, looking at an image, what do you think, what gas is inside of that air balloon? Now, this is nothing you can take from the image. Absolutely not. This is now generic knowledge disseminated somewhere. The answer is, it's unlikely that this is air. Now, here is what GPT has learned. It doesn't say it is not air. It gives you the judgment that Katharina was talking about. It is unlikely. So it's all kind of giving you the human, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure, sort kinds of things. And the balloon will be floating in the air, suggests that it will be filled with a lighter gas, such as helium and hydrogen. Okay, so fast forward. I'm asking now, like, I'm planning a party. Hydrogen sounds awesome. How about I use this for the barbecue? You guys laugh, right? ChatGPT. I'm glad you're finding hydrogen interesting. Shoot. I strongly advise you against it, right? So I know we still see a lot of hallucination in ChatGPTs and in AI, like communication, but this is really like, this is the cool stuff up there, right? Because it does know that electricity, sunlight, and all of the other things wouldn't actually go well with a barbecue party. Now, this is a fun example you can run on a stage. Here is where it gets really interesting. Let's imagine, today we can't count the number of balloons. It's still very judgmental, those models. But we are exploring and we are developing this model so fast, and the pace of innovation is so incredible that in a very soon time, we expect, and I'm not a future reader, so otherwise I would do my job somewhere else. But if you can put that into technology that predicts the medical diseases and can calculate how many cells of a particular type are actually on a particular sample, that saves us time. We're still talking co-pilots, guys. Let's not forget, there will be still always a human at the steering wheel of that. But that's what we say, what is happening today, and we see this coming from Microsoft developing one Copilot or Copilot application into a multitude of security applications, sales, knowledge workers, domain experts, but most importantly, this piece is now exploding. For those of you who has been at the Hanover Fair just a couple of past months, you've seen that there is almost no industrial application that goes away without having this AI embedded technology. And this is how it looks right now with many, 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 many hours. So this is like real life examples from real life customers. And that's what we talk about, the age of co-pilots. And we talk about the models and frameworks that we're happy to go talk either through the coffee break or at any given time to you about, because that's what it takes to get ready for AI. It takes all of these pillars and all of these layers, just like those of you who studied at the time when I studied ISO 8 layers. These are the layers for the getting ready to AI. Now, let me fast forward because here's a timer running and I'm running out of time. Let me give you the point on data because I think this is interesting. So this is my conversation with AI. I've asked Copilot to analyze all of my communications and tell me a fancy story. What do they think? What a superhero I am? And AI came to the conclusion that based on my communication, if I would be a superhero in the universe, I would be an Iron Man. Now, funny enough, we've done this as a team. So we came up Karin told me like 8 Ironmans. I'm like, okay, the data on which the ChatGPT is trying to predict this answer is not well enough. So what I did then is I actually asked them to take the whole fandom wiki into collaboration. So I linked in a different data set to the same question. And AI came out and say, hey, you are actually the oracle from the matrix. Which means depending on what databases and analytics you put behind, you will get a different answer. And this is the job for all of you here. Go figure it out what your organization needs, because just relying on the standardized model and not putting the data behind, you are not getting what you need out of ChatGPT, OpenAI, or any of this. So let me skip forward the couple of other things I wanted to talk to you about. This is just like super quick. This is all a partnership. Neither of us, nowhere, regardless where are you in the world, will be capable of getting there alone. So we have to be partners in crimes here and really make it happen. So let me close with saying, here is what you really need, in my opinion only, to be ready. Number one, you need imagination, a lot of it, because that's nothing that can come from machine. And you need a responsible approach. And if you get these two, you actually can start painting the future, just like Monet, Renoir, and Pissarro enabled us to see the world through the different lens. And with that, I will open for questions. Thank you, Berlin.